Dolittle is an unwanted and absolutely god-awful adaptation of the Dr. Dolittle books that by the end of it, you'll be wishing that Eddie Murphy would have returned. Dolittle stars Robert Downey Jr., Antonio Banderas, Michael Sheen in the primarily live roles in the film, with a number of voice performances including Emma Thompson, John Cena, Ralph Fiennes, Marion Cotillard, and a few others that play the talking animals in the film. Like I said, this film is just awful from start to finish. It opens with kind of a little cartoon dial with some voiceover dialogue talking about how Dr. Dolittle saves animals, him and his wife that were in love. They go off and have an accident where she's lost at sea, and it sends Dolittle into this very depressed state in which he boards up his animal hospital shop and basically becomes a recluse, reluctant to go out into the world or even help anybody that's out there. The film is, it's just painful from start to finish, pretty much comprised of fart jokes the entire time, and even one big plot point leads to this like 15-second long fart, and you're just left scratching your head and thinking, man, why didn't they just bring Eddie Murphy back and do another spin on the Dr. Dolittle that's updated for a modern audience, instead of going back into the 1800s under Queen Victoria and setting this one. So after this little animated scene, you find out that there's a boy, his name is Scoggins, something like that, and he's out hunting with his father, uncle, and he doesn't want to shoot some ducks, so he swings around the gun and accidentally shoots a squirrel. His uncle, father, whatever, tells him he needs to go ahead and put the squirrel out of his misery, but he can't do it. He's a kind-hearted person, so he takes the squirrel and tracks down Dr. Dolittle. So he goes to Dolittle's house, runs into a couple talking animals, one, the polar bear voiced by John Cena, and finally goes in there, and the Dr. Dolittle somehow, this just gnarly beard and just crazy hairstyle, and he's talked by the animals into helping rescue this animal, and then a little girl shows up after he saves this squirrel, and she's the queen's handmaiden or something like that, and she's requesting that Dolittle come to Buckingham Palace to save the queen at the queen's own request. So it's a very fast-paced story. It's only about 90 minutes long before the credits roll, and everything seems to happen boom, boom, boom. Just never gives anybody time to breathe. Downey Jr.'s doing his best job with this that he can, but there's not much there. In fact, there's a lot of little pop culture references that are definitely out of place in terms of a film that's set in the 1800s, specifically the little squirrel after he's saved. He makes numerous references to Kevin's Log, day 1516 or something like that, and he commits to like a little pep speech or encouragement to himself, and it's just unneeded and unnecessary. So once Dolittle gets to Buckingham Palace, he finds out that the queen has in fact been poisoned, and the only way to save her is to go to some island where his wife had originally tried to go, and she didn't ever return back from there, so she died at sea. But Dolittle's like, okay, we can do it. So you meet Michael Sheen's character there at the time, and he's kind of a contemporary of Dolittle, and he's obviously vying to be like the head surgeon or doctor in the realm, and he can't save her. And there's kind of a little moment where you can see him talking to another one of the lords, and you can tell that they're probably behind the queen's poisoning, but it doesn't say right at the beginning. It picks up a little bit later to kind of give you exactly what it is. So Dolittle proceeds to leave. He leaves the dog, voiced by Tom Holland, there, tells him to go ahead and protect the queen. He's like, okay, I'll protect her, and he growls at everybody, and then he proceeds to sit down on his ass and scoot around the floor, marking his territory. And it's really just a sign of what's to come with this film, because the jokes are just still juvenile, very immature. And it's interesting because the film is directed and in part written by Stephen Gaghan, who is an Academy Award-winning writer. So, whatever, bro. I don't know how you did this, but you really messed up here. So they get on a ship, and there's a neat little scene where the giraffe and a fox grabs the little boy who Dr. Dolittle doesn't want to go with him, but he wants to be Dolittle's apprentice, and they run across a bridge and drop him onto the ship. Then they sail off out into the sea. They get one of the old Ironside, old steel warships, that chases them down, and then they have to hook a whale that gives them a bit of whale power. They even make reference to this called whale power. It's something that Dolittle cooked up, and they take off and are able to get away from them. So from that point, they have to go to this pirate island where Antonio Banderas' character's there. You find out he's the father of Dolittle's wife, and he was mad because Dolittle took his wife away. Dolittle didn't protect his wife, didn't protect his daughter, and then she died, and all he has left from her is a journal she wrote that shows the way where they need to go get this magical fruit that'll end up saving the queen's life because it can cure all illnesses and everything. And it's like, oh, okay. So there's a scene where basically Antonio Banderas and all of his people are just kind of drunk pirates just laying around, drinking. They got a couple tigers, a couple lions and stuff around, and it's like, okay, well, they try to steal it. They're unable to steal it. They get caught. They get thrown in there. And then you have Ralph Fiennes voicing this tiger, which he has a great voice for evil characters. So it kind of works when in that instance. But basically, it's just like a tiger with mommy issues and kind of this split personality where he's mad at Dolittle and then he's happy with him and he's trying to get him to give him some therapy. And there's a moment where he lays in his lap and starts talking to him or therapizing the tiger. And it's like, oh God, please stop. But it doesn't stop from there. So they finally get out and they try to escape. But guess what? The Michael Sheen character showed back up and he's like, no, you're not going anywhere. I'm taking the journal and I'm going to disappear. I'm going to go get the fruit, save the day, whatever. Well, they take off and then there's a moment where Antonio Banderas, reconciles with Dolittle and he's like, go after them. He gives him this really crappy ship and then they sail off to this mythical island where this magical fruit is. So once they get to the island, they go around a different way while the British soldiers under Michael Sheen's character comes in from the front. They end up in this cave where they stumble upon a dragon that's hidden in there. And, the dragon attacks, kills a few people, knocks a few of them down a ledge before Dr. Dolittle gets grabbed up by its tail or its hand. It's kind of hard to tell exactly. It's a really poor CGI dragon. Some of the animals look good. Some of them are bad CGI. And some of them appear to be, in some instances, like puppets and stuff or animatronics. And the blending is okay-ish. For a movie with a $175 million budget, you would expect more than this. And finally, he talks to the dragon a little bit, and he was like, I'll make a deal with you. You let me cure you, and then you help us out. If not, you can eat us anyway. So he starts poking around the dragon. He's like, oh, you have a bowel obstruction. Yes, I can feel it. You have a bowel obstruction. And then he's like, turn her on her side. He flips the dragon over on the side. And then Dolittle goes around and basically goes into the dragon's rear, pulls out some armor, a helmet, a hat, a breastplate, a sword. And he's like, there's a little bit of a fart sound for a little while. And it's like, oh, okay, there's something else in here. Let me get that obstruction. And he reaches both hands in there and he has to kind of get pulled out by one of the other animals or the boy. I don't remember exactly. And then he pulls out a bagpipe and the dragon just farts for like 15, 20 seconds long. And you're just like, you can see down his face. He's kind of like, the dragon farting. That's more or less he's making a face because why am I in such a shitty movie? Which I don't know. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about it. And the film did have extensive reshoots. You can tell in this case there appears to be entire scenes missing from it because there's no real definitive time frame established, like how long the queen has to live. It just says she has till the next eclipse. If she doesn't get the medicine before then, she'll be dead. Well, how long is that eclipse away? Is it a week away? Is it 2 weeks away? It doesn't really say. But they are able to go to a pirate island on a ship and then go from the pirate island over to the mythical island where the dragon is and able to get back to the queen. And they get back just in the nick of time where there's kind of a little fight scene. Dolittle throws the fruit. The little boy slides underneath the bed, grabs the fruit, squeezes it out, drops a few drops of the juice into the queen's mouth. She's revived. And they find out that one of the lords actually had poisoned the queen with the nightshade. He tells him off to the tower. And the queen is like, okay, Dolittle, you're good to go. And in essence, Dr. Dolittle will now be able to continue his animal practice because the start of the film him keeping up his practice, even though he wasn't actually practicing, was all dependent on the lifespan of the queen and not for his life as he thought. And he makes a reference to, it's the last time I let a monkey read a contract for me. And it's just, it is just awful from start to finish. It's missing scenes. You can tell there's a lot of reshoots. And it is an abomination that should never have been made. They should have just brought Eddie Murphy back in for a soft reboot of that original Dr. Dolittle series instead of bringing in Robert Downey Jr., who's an excellent actor, to play this really bad role with a lot of really juvenile fart jokes that I don't even think most kids will laugh at this, much less any adults that take their kids to see this. You know, the fart jokes, there's multiple times that they have these fart jokes, like an octopus farts and ink comes out. They say it's a squid, and it's very obviously an octopus, not a squid. And it farts, and ink comes out, and then, you know, the dog scooting its butt across the ground, along with the dragon farting multiple times. And you're just like, stop. Plus, the little squirrel running around saying, Kevin's log, day, whatever. And he talks about, he's basically like a bipolar squirrel. Like, he hates everybody. He thinks they're out to get him. Then he becomes friends at the end. And it's just bad. So it ends with, you know, them, the little boy, Scoggins or whatever his name is, becoming the apprentice to Dr. Dolittle, and they open up shop accepting all species, human and animal alike, and it kind of goes off. It's one of those films that the studio is going to lose a bunch of money. It didn't perform well at the box office, and nor should it have performed well at the box office, because this film is just trash. It's very choppy, very fast-paced, not really any time for any characters to breathe or any actual development to occur to them. And a lot of time, Downey Jr.'s like bouncing around and saying his lines with odd looks, and you're just like, stop, please stop. But it doesn't until 90 minutes in when the credits roll, and you're actually happy at that point that the film is over. Would I recommend this? Absolutely not. I wouldn't recommend it for a family film, for anybody to go watch it at all. I wouldn't even say wait till it comes out on streaming services, because I'm sure this is going to be one that kind of drops under the radar without any fanfare because it is so bad. Thank you. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good day.